this topic, I'm going to continue on since I'm trying to keep it short. On the previous one, this will be command calls, and it'll be a pretty short one. So this is like a very special like communication that's normally done in mid fights. I would say, you normally have like information calls, right? You have target calls. You have, dynamic comms, which I sort of talked about, right? And now you have something called command calls. Okay, so this is different. And this is something you'll only use like once in a while, and it's something that also like is sort of creative. It's just not something that like everyone knows what it is, right? Like everyone has like this like can communicate this. Like people can invent their own command calls. Okay, so let me first talk about what a command call is. So a command call is essentially a particular word, or I'll put it this way, a particular keyword that is already defined by your team that means something really important. Okay, so it is it's a keyword that is like defined by your team. Okay, and your team basically knows the meaning. Okay, so your team should already know the meaning. Your team knows what it means. Okay, if you guys remember before, when you have some information, right, or there's some type of column, right, information, which is a communication, there is some type of action, right? With this, right, same thing. So let me give you a very basic example of a command call. Okay, if anyone played before in the Reaper Doom meta a long time, like a few while ago, there's a Reaper Doom meta with Orisa, Sigma, Lucio, Moira, I believe. And basically what would happen is, I think it was that backline. I'm not fully sure. Can't remember. Might have been. Yeah, I think it was that backline, right? And basically what happened is, the Doomfist would just punch in, right? And the Doomfist would try and get a kill, right? And then the Reaper would teleport behind, and then the Reaper would also try and get a kill after the Doomfist got out. So there'd be this constant assassination attempts for the DPS on like the enemy backline, and the backline would feel like really, 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 really under pressure to the point where like it's just like crazy, right? So a command call in this situation that was developed, and some teams used it, was called turn. I'm gonna put it all caps. Turn. So what this meant, right, is it meant for everyone on the team to legit turn around, except for maybe the Orisa, but if you have a shield up, it's sort of fine. Turn around and clear the Doom and or Reaper, right? It depends who's there. Right, so you'd say something like turn, right, and like people would turn. You could say something like turn Doom, turn Reaper, right, and then everyone would turn around like physically in the game. Obviously, they turn around and they like force the Doomfist out, force the Reaper out, and then they could take space, right? And the whole concept of command calls is command calls like overwrite anything, right? If someone's saying a target call, someone says turn Doomfist, the target call goes away. No one cares about the target call anymore. If someone says some information about something, right? Someone says turn Doomfist, everyone's caring about the turn Doomfist, right? The command call is like the hierarchy of all comms, right? If someone says something, you drop whatever the hell you're doing, you listen to that comm because it's the most important thing, right? So let me give you some more examples so that you can sort of like understand, okay? For example, you can have really weird things like turn makes sense, like logical sense, like turn, okay, the team's gonna turn around, duh, right? But the problem with some command calls is sometimes you might use words that don't stand out in like voice comms, right? So sometimes you might use weird things. For example, when I worked with one team, I had them say grape. Never in Overwatch, in normal comms, will you hear someone say grape. If you do, I guarantee you it's some keyword meaning something, right? So if someone says grape, what this meant on that team is it meant, frontline, chill. Like frontline, stop over aggressing. There's people in our backline, turn around frontline and help peel. Right, so this is normally when like people were like up a few, right, and then the enemy team is trying to like kill your backline, and your front line is just getting baited by keep going forward, right? So the front line would chill, right, and would sort of, and like the front line would chill and would go, front line would chill. The front line would understand from this that the back line was like under pressure, right? And then they would turn and like help, right? These two obviously sort of similar, right? I just giving an example of how, you know, you can use a different word, right? And it can be like anything, preferably like something that just stands out that has low syllables, right? I'll give a few more examples. Like here's a really good one. Okay, orange. I'm just using, you know, fruits because why not? Orange. This could mean like clear comms. Okay, because maybe your team is like really messy with comms and people just keep talking. And as a team, you guys have said, you know what, we need to have a word. We need to settle down, you know, and calm down so we can let our alt tracker talk a bit more. And if someone says orange or someone says orange, we just be quiet. We can alt track them. We can plan, and it'll get better, right? And hopefully, you know, as this happens, you'll maybe not need the word, right? So you know, the other thing I'm going to mention too is you shouldn't have like 5, 6 words for command calls. That's ridiculous. You're going to have like maybe like you're like fighting and it's like orange grape turn, right? Like that's nonsense, right? That's just ridiculous, right? Like you should maybe like a team maybe has like 1 or 2 normally leading on 1, right? That like they're using, right? And it's normally maybe because of the meta, right? They need one maybe because of the meta. They need one maybe to try and like fix something that's going wrong, like in like they're working on, maybe because of like trading, right? Or like to turn fights, right? So like communication's really messy, right? So there could be a lot of stuff, right? Another example is in, right? And this was like used a lot in like a brawl meta, right? And essentially what this meant is that anyone, like, I'll mention that too, but like what this meant, right, is that like someone saw um somebody someone saw, oh, I might need to move my camera here, or we'll put it down, put it back there, sorry. Someone saw like an advantage, like probably a CD maybe, or maybe they have an ultimate, in which that now like you can push the enemy team. Whoops. You can push the enemy team. Right? So you'd be like, maybe your Div or your Zarya, you're playing Brawl with Ryan Zarya versus Ryan Zarya, and your Zarya realizes that, you know, they don't have bubbles and you do, right? And it's like a huge advantage, right? So your Zarya just like in, and like, you know, everyone just like instantly and just trust your call, right? Like it just happens instantly,
Support T2
right?
Overwatch. I've seen people charged $50 an hour for this shit.
Free, thank you very much for the sub. I appreciate it. Thank you. That's gonna be really funny because it's gonna go in the YouTube video. Thank you, Free. I appreciate it, man. I really do. But yeah, so like you're sort of hopefully understanding that like these command calls can be like, you know, they're normally words that are really important. They are meta specific. You know, they're normally words that hopefully aren't said in Overwatch comms normally, so it stands out, right? The other thing I'm going to mention really fast now is, you know, when you're saying these words, you're not trying to be mean about it, obviously, but there's a certain tone, right? You want to use, right? It needs to be heard, right? It can't be orange, 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 guys, orange, in, right? No, it can't be that soft, right? It needs to be like in, like orange, 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 right? Like you know, like, and you can normally say it once, you're probably fine, right? But it needs to be heard and it needs to be like sort of like distinct. Okay. The other thing, right? So I sort of talked about this earlier, but like, what can be a keyword? I'll quickly write it down. What can be a keyword? As we talked about before, right? It can be anything, right? It can be literally anything. Just try not to use it as it's normal Overwatch comms. Try and keep it sort of something that is, you know, 1 or 2 syllables, and like it's like something that like people are like, what? Like it's very obvious. Like it's something that's not calmed. Okay. And try and make it something that's sort of relatable to what you're saying, right? Like in, obviously you're pushing in. Turn, obviously turning around, right? But sometimes you use weird things because, like, for example, like grape, right? Like it's a very hard to describe maybe saying your front line chill, back line like is under pressure, front line you need to peel, right? Like you can't like say that, so you just use a shortcut word called grape. Okay. And then the last thing, right, is who uses these? And the answer to this is anyone. Whoops. Anyone. So anyone on your team can use this, right? But what I'm gonna say again is like, be responsible. Okay. You shouldn't be like yelling like the word like 5 times in like one fight. It should be like once in a while, right? In certain situations. And like you say it like once so it's clear and heard and everyone listens to it. But anyone on your team can see things and anyone, you know, can deal with it. Obviously, sometimes in certain metas or certain words, it's gonna be more specific. For example, in this turn, right? Like this is very, very, very specific, right? To like it's very specific to like Doom Reaper meta, and then it's also very specific to backline, right? Because the backline are going to be the ones who are going to call this because they're the ones going to be under pressure, right? Same thing for like I'd maybe say it can be sort of anyone, but sometimes your front line will see the advantage. Maybe your off tank and will see an advantage and they'll push forward. Sometimes your backline may not even be able to see it, right? Grape will be backline again, right? Clear comms could be anyone, right? So again, normally it's going to be anyone. Sometimes it's a bit more specific based off of what the use is, but that's sort of, you know, it. And yeah, so this is sort of an example of command calls. Hopefully this will sort of help people understand that, like, you know, if you're trying to solve a problem in your comms, you can sort of make a command call for your team and like everyone will understand it and it'll help clear things up. Or maybe you're having an issue with a particular topic in meta and like people aren't like doing something really right away. You can make a command call to sort of fix that or to help like get value out of something.